We'll chant it together. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Please chant. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakrite of material nature, kriyamanani being done, gunai by the modes, karmani activities, sarvashaha all kinds of, ahankara vimudha bewildered by false ego, atma the spirit soul, karta doer, aham I, iti thus, manyate he thinks. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Please repeat. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Purport. Two persons, one in Krishna consciousness and the other in material consciousness, working on the same level, may appear to be working on the same platform, but there is a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person in material consciousness is convinced by false ego that he is the doer of everything. He does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is the symptom of his nescience. He does not know that this gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature, under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna, in Krishna consciousness. The ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Rishikesha, or the master of the senses of the material body. For due to his long misuse of the senses and sense gratification, he is factually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jnana Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So you could say that those of us that are embarking on the path of Krishna consciousness, we understand that there's something wrong. There's a problem in the material world. And most of us were suffering greatly before we came into contact with the Hare Krishna movement. Especially those in the Western world. Those in India, you may have had some exposure to devotion and spiritual knowledge. So your misery may not have been quite what it was like in the West, growing up as a young person in America, in Kali Yuga, in total ignorance. It's very horrible. No knowledge of the soul or karma or God, no justice, no hope, no happiness. So we've come to Krishna consciousness in order to become happy or solve the problems of life. So generally we think that our primary problem is our identification with the body. So we think that, yes, that is our number one obstacle, is that we are now encased in a physical body. And when we look in the mirror, we see this person look back at us. And everyone treats us according to our body. Everyone interacts with us. You may have there may be a rare person that when you come into their presence, they see you as spirit soul. But that's generally not the case. Even in our Krishna consciousness movement, we're generally treated by our age, our advancement, our beauty, our wealth, our influence by the assembled devotees. It's just a fact of life. So everyone around us is telling us that we're the body, and we have this conception that we're the body. But really, our job, how we can be successful in Krishna consciousness, it's to understand that it is not the body, but it's the false ego, which is actually our problem. To conquer the body is not really the question, it's the false ego. When the living entity comes to the material world, the moment you receive a mind, the moment you enter the material world, you get a false ego. That's what material consciousness means. You come into the material world, immediately you have a false ego and a mind. The mind is dictating all the things that you need to do to be happy. And the false ego is telling you that you're very important, that you're somebody, that you have a separate identity. You're somebody who deserves things. You should be happy yourself, not connected to Krishna's happiness. So this is the great enemy. This bewilderment of the false ego. This is it. If you can figure out how to overcome the false ego, then you've been successful in Krishna consciousness. That is what motivates us. That is what drives us. Every morning when we wake up, it is what spurs us is the false ego. I am such and such Prabhu. I have this family member. I have this money. I have this influence. I have this body. This is my breakfast. This is my vehicle. This is my service. This is my recognition. This is the false ego. And we identify ourselves according to the false ego. But this is really our enemy, because this false ego has to die for us to be Krishna conscious. For us to actually obtain love of Godhead, to feel the rapture of love of God, for Krishna to reveal himself to us. That means that there must be a death of the false ego. Not theoretically or intellectually, but genuinely. So we should understand that that's the enemy, is this sense of me. I am. One devotee was saying, a Sanskrit scholar, his name's Radharaman, he got his PhD from Oxford, he was saying that the Sanskrit word aham, like me, actually should not be used by the living entity. It's inappropriate. It's meant for Krishna. God can say I am, but the living entity shouldn't, it's not appropriate. The living entity doesn't have a right to say I am. So this is the challenge, and you can see how foolish we are when we're under the influence of material nature and the modes of material nature, under the influence of the false ego, because everything's relative. The problem is that to enjoy in the material world, it means if I want to be famous, if I want praise, if I want to be appreciated as somebody smart and very Krishna conscious, and I want to get honor from devotees or the world, then people's opinions of me must count. If I detach myself from what people think about me, then I can't get happiness through fame. So that's the double-edged sword. is that once I'm attached to fame, then it means I'll be affected by infamy automatically. That's the catch-22. When you want to enjoy in this material world, automatically you have to suffer. And it's not because Krishna is behind there with a thunderbolt. It just has to be. It's like if you drink alcohol to feel good, you'll have a headache in the morning. It's just part of the process. You can't avoid it. But you may forget, well, I'll feel good tonight, so I'll worry about tomorrow morning. Maybe I'll drink some more to feel better. So when we want validation, then we get burnt by criticism. When we want appreciation, that's when we suffer when we're neglected or insulted. Or when we want loyalty, people to be faithful to us, that's when we get burned by disloyalty and infidelity. So the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached Vairagya for followers of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. We should make no mistake about it. The Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad-Gita very clearly point towards renunciation, detachment from everything in this world. So that's the catch-22, is that if you want to enjoy, it means you must suffer, because there's the opposite side of the coin. So it can be a little disappointing sometimes when we realize that everybody is useless and a blind spirit soul and crazy in the material world. We don't like to think that, because then what's the point of being famous? How can I be a world-famous preacher if everyone's a fool? If everyone's blind and bewildered by the modes of material nature, then such worship of foolish people means nothing. Right? So I don't want to think how everyone's a fool in the material world, because it interferes with my enjoyment. To enjoy in the material world means you have to consider other living entities as sane, and what they're doing also has a value. So it's one big package, you can't avoid it. So as devotees, we have to be completely detached from anything, from everything, from the happiness of this world, and understand that it's a product of the false ego. And we can test ourselves. How do we respond when we're insulted? Like genuinely. When genuinely you're disrespected by a devotee. Right? It burns the heart. Why they're doing like this? Don't they understand? I'm a senior devotee. I've been around. This is not good for their spiritual life. I'm not so much worried for myself. This is not proper in ISKCON. This is not proper. And it's very disturbing. It says in the Bhagavatam that the harsh words of uncivilized people are more painful than the sharp arrow in the heart. And one can recover from an arrow to the heart, but it says that insulting words, you can never recover. They continues to burn. You remember those insulting words your whole life, what was spoken. So, but these things only have power if we have false ego, if we care. That's why Lord Chaitanya gave the secret. You have to be nothing. You must become nothing. Nothing. Now, you may say, that's artificial, but not really. You know that Lord Chaitanya, in his conversation with Rupa Goswami, before he begins, he reminds Rupa Goswami, he quotes the Bhagavad-Gita. So Krishna in the Bhagavad-Gita, in the opulence of the Absolute, he explains that of mountains I'm the Himalayas. And he says of great things, this is that, of, the animals, this is, of great things, of light, the sun. So Krishna says of tiny things, of small things, of microscopic things. So Krishna is now going to give what is the tiniest thing. He's saying of microscopic things, I am what? What does he say? Do you know? He says, I'm the jiva. Of all the things in the universe for Krishna to pick as being an example of the most tiny thing, the most insignificant, minuscule, he could have picked anything, right? He says the jiva, I'm the jiva. So that is our identity. We don't like to hear it. We don't like to meditate on it because we like to think we have a big body, Look at me. I'm very important. Prabhupada said, I could save the world. If I get my act together, I could maybe deliver the world. I'm a follower of Prabhupada. Prabhupada said Bhaktivinoda Thakur could deliver the whole world, but he left it for us to do. So maybe that's my destiny. I'm going to become a great preacher. And then everyone will realize that I'm almost kind of like an avatar, in a sense, because I was sent by Lord Chaitanya. So we can get in so much illusion. You can be so big, so huge, we can in our mind imagine who we are. I'm this, I'm that. But the truth of the matter is, we're really nothing. And that's why Lord Chaitanya humbly said, listen, I'll help you chant. You want to chant? First thing, I don't have much time. I only have 8 verses in the Shikshastaka. No time at all. And he spends so much time to glorify the holy name and to explain the higher levels of Krishna Prem. But he says, doesn't much time. He says, here it is. This is it, my friend, my child. I'm going to tell you everything. This is the sutra. You just become like nothing. You become like the grass and like the tree. And you don't expect anything for yourself. And you respect everybody else. There it is. Sometimes we gloss that over. Yeah, I know. Okay, humble. Yeah, humility. I get it. I know you're supposed to be humble. But we don't really enter into that. Because we think it's not, how can I be like the grass? Everybody step on me? I'm not going to let people step on me. Like a tree, someone cuts off my arm and I give them fruit and I won't protest and I'll keep giving them shade from the sun. That's crazy. That's not reasonable. That's not realistic. But this is the standard because we are nothing. We're tiny and we don't like to hear it. We think, oh, no, what do you mean? I'm like a gopi. When I go before Radhashama Sundar, I get so inspired. I start to have realizations of who I really am in the spiritual world. And I'm going to be so special. I'm going to decorate Radharani's hair in such a way that she's going to think I'm the best. So I'm so amazing. My potential's unlimited. I'm so special. Prabhupada has come to help me realize who I am in the spiritual world. It'll just be me. So we can get so wrapped up in me, myself, I. So it's very hard to really kind of realize you're nothing. We're nothing. And then you see, but that's the platform of ecstasy. That's the enigma. By accepting that you're tiny and you have no value, and you're so fortunate just to render a little service, then you become happy. You're peaceful. You're not threatened. Doesn't matter. People insult you. You're recognized. Because you don't look at, you're situated in your position, your constitutional position. But we have an illusory idea, we project on that there's something shameful or embarrassing about being tiny and microscopic. But it's glorious. It's who we are. The verse today that we're reading, it says that the living entity is bewildered, made stupid by identifying with the actions of the modes of material nature. Means that I think I'm doing it. Like now, I think I'm moving my hands, I'm sitting here, I'm using my intellect for the class, but really nothing is happening. I'm not doing anything, but I'm taking the credit. I'm an illusion. After class, somebody goes, Prabhu, such a nice class. It was very nice, thank you very much. I'm thinking yeah, that's great. It's nice to be acknowledged, It's nice that I still got it, I can still break out a class that impresses people, But it's an illusion. I shouldn't really take credit for it because Krishna is giving the intelligence. He's giving the mouth, the tongue, the air, the teeth. Teeth are also involved in speaking. If you don't have teeth, you'll see it's not so easy to talk. Everything. Eyes to see you. So if we can access that place of understanding, then what are you going to take credit for? It's embarrassing. It's shameful. If you take credit for what Krishna has given. But this is our position because you cannot help it. It's the material world. It's the only way you can enjoy, is you have to forget that Krishna gave it to you. And you look at yourself and you think, when somebody looks at you and your body or your mind or and like you see in their eye that they're attracted, you think, yes, that's me. That's me, and I deserve that. But it's not you. You don't have anything. It's not you. Krishna is giving it. Of course, he'll take that in time and you'll be very depressed if you go for that. So, it's like, now they're developing in America, it's becoming very popular. It's like you put on this mask, it's virtual reality. It's like a video you put on your eyes, and you really think like you're in the picture. You know, it's like a movie, but you think you're in it because it covers up your whole peripheral vision. And they've done experiments. You know, they put people on a treadmill. They're monitoring their heart, and they put a virtual reality, and they're on a bike, and the virtual reality, they're like on a bike. They're on a nice path with trees and flowers and a blue sky, and they're like biking. So they let that, and they're monitoring the heart rate. But what they did in the video was they put this big burning like Zeppelin. You know what a Zeppelin is? Dirigible. These big balloons that they used to have in World War II. That famous German one, it caught fire. The Hindenburg. So there's this big brick come out of the blue. And what happens is the person on the treadmill, their heart rate increases greatly. They get scared. So it's illusion, but their heart rate is increasing. Now, if somebody were to buy a video game, a virtual reality video game, and they were a king, it was like a royal game, right, where you're a king and you have subjects and servants, and they played it, at home. And they took it off, and they came off, and they started ordering you around like they were a king. What would you think of that person? And they start to think like they're a king. You go, you're insane. You're an idiot. What are you doing? You like, what? It would be beyond stupid, right? You go, what are you doing? It's a game. So that's our position. This is a glorified virtual reality machine. It's organic, it's flesh, so it's soft and nice, so we'll accept it. If it were a hard machine, it would be hard to be in love with it. But because it's nice and our eyes look very beautiful and they're moist and they're deep, so we think, okay, this machine is okay. I'll take this as myself. It's all right. But it's illusion, because we have nothing to do with it. It's projecting onto the soul. The soul is just observing due to karma. It's either good or bad. So this is what Krishna is revealing in this verse, is that the living entity thinks that it's doing something, but it's the modes of material nature, that you're doing nothing. And what you do and what you're attracted to, and you write a song that becomes famous, so you write poetry, or you do something like that, you didn't do it. It was a mixture of Krishna in the heart, giving inspiration, Paramatma, and the modes of material nature, mixing passion, ignorance, goodness, to come up with your song. The words and the melody and you're thinking, I created this and I'm going to win an award for this, but no, it's not. It's a product of the Lord and the modes of material nature. There's nothing to do with you. You have no proprietorship over it. It's just an illusion. It's a passing illusion. But we get very attached, and that's why we set ourselves up, because as long as you're attached to this material world, as long as you think you're the body, then it means you're going to suffer at death. Death will be painful. And that's what we want to die well, right? It says that a devotee, he dies like in full consciousness. So you can imagine if we cultivate this consciousness, that we're nothing, we're tiny, insignificant, then fully dependent on the Lord. If we cultivate, if we really, really try to become like nothing, and to always meditate in all our dealings with other devotees, that we're nothing, we have no value, we're tiny, insignificant. Not just words, not lip service, but reality. We really are a tiny, tiny, infinitesimal soul put in this very impressive body. Bodies can be very impressive. I come in my saffron and I give esoteric spiritual concepts, offer transformation and advancement. Krishna consciousness is very dramatic, very impressive. And it's very easy to get wrapped up and think that you're something. But really, we're just transcendental fairy dust, It's like the great Uddhava, the great Yadu, advisor of Krishna, friend of Krishna, and minister of Krishna. Krishna used to take advice from Uddhava. He was so intelligent. Krishna would ask his advice, and he would take his advice. Imagine that. Krishna is coming to you. Listen, I have this situation. I don't really know what to do. What is your counsel? And you're like, Krishna, this is what I think you should do. This is the best course for you, my Lord. And Krishna is like, I like that. Very good. All right, I'll do it. Such a relationship Uddhava has with the Lord. So Uddhava, what is his ultimate realization? He gets the best association. He gets preached to by the Lord. He's the best friend of the Lord. And he goes to Vrindavan and he gets the association of Radharani, right? He's there when she's madly talking to the bumblebee. Like, you were there. Can you imagine? Like, what a privilege. What a soul to be entrusted that kind of, confidential environment. And what is his realization at the end? What does he want? He says, I just want to be a piece of dust on the grass so that I'll touch the feet of these wonderful devotees. That's his realization. That's, we may talk about Gopi Bhav and Manjari Bhav, but actually we want Uddhava Bhav. That's what we want. Let it become dust. Just a little bit of dust. That the great Uddhava. That was his realization at the end. My Lord, he could have gotten anything, any benediction. He didn't say, give me a form of a gopi. I want to enter. This is amazing. I've experienced it in Radharani and the gopis. They're the highest. So please bathe me in a special kund and I'll give me a gopi form and let me come home. And no, but he was like, my Lord, you just make me a particle of dust on the grass that the feet of the gopis may brush against me occasionally. What a meditation. The great Uddhava. So we have to go there. And it's so difficult. There's so much propaganda. It's like, be a gopi, So much propaganda. It's like, this is what you should be aspiring after, But it's not. No, that wasn't Prabhupada's mood, actually. We are the servant of the servant. Save us, serve us. Krishna wants to make us then we'll cooperate. But we won't get a form like that unless it goes with that mood. The gopis are not proud. They're not proud. They have beautiful forms, but they just are so surrendered to the Lord. They have so much genuine humility. It is said that sometimes the gopis, when they're rushing to see Krishna, that they put their makeup on all wrong and dress funny. And it says that it appeared as if they were like how small children would dress themselves, right? The great gopis of Vrindavan. They're expert in all arts, right? Making themselves beautiful. But it says that they look like how children would dress themselves. You visit Radharani, her lipstick is like this. It's all wrong. But they don't care because it's Krishna's service. They're not like, no, I'm putting on my makeup. Tell Krishna he can wait. Right? Like a man may experience in this world. Darling, the car's here. It's time to go out. He goes, I'm putting on my dress. Right? It's like, sorry. So it's such a beautiful verse. Krishna is giving the actual understanding. The living entity, bewildered by false ego, becomes foolish and thinks that he is the doer of... So much is in here. If you can understand this point, then your job is done. Your work is over. If you can understand that it's the false ego which is the enemy. Thinking who we are, I have this responsibility. And this is why vairagya is critical. This is why devotees must take vanaprastha and they must detach themselves from their family. You see? The illusion is that like, no, my wife is a good devotee, my children are devotees, like they're good association for me, and this is like not Maya, but it is Maya. Because the problem is that your wife or your husband and your children, even though they're devotees, they're saying, oh, daddy, you're this, you're that, you're so nice, you're this, and they're reinforcing the bodily concept of life. And you're thinking you're the nice daddy. You're the nice spiritual dad, lives in Vrindavan, is so spiritual, and it's illusion. It's Maya. Prabhupada wasn't wasting time when he said that everyone should take vanaprastha and renounce before the time of death. It's not a joke. This is the proof that you understand the philosophy. Leave your comfortable situation, your comfortable meals, your comfortable apartment, everything, your comfortable bank account, and you've got to take a risk and just go and detach yourself. Otherwise, it means you don't really believe it. You don't really believe that Krishna will protect you if you put yourself in that situation. It's like a facade. You're putting on a show. And then what'll happen when you die? You don't get the result. Yes, you'll get a nice situation. You'll become a nice devotee in Vrindavan with nice devotee parents. But we don't want that. We want to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. Of course, Prabhupada wants to give us more service in ISKCON. We don't mind, but we'd like to come back with good consciousness so we can be a sannyasi next time and not waste time and give all of our life to Krishna. So this is very important. Prabhupada said that if a man dies without his wife and children knowing the moment of his death, he says that is a glorious death. He says that is what is meant for a man. That your wife and children do not know the moment of your death. So what does that mean? How will you achieve that? It doesn't mean that you just got the message, you got the stroke, or you got the 1 month diagnosis from the cancer doctor, then you're going to, it doesn't work like that. It's too late. You have to detach yourself now. You have to make the plan now. Take a risk, even though it's difficult. We all have to move towards renunciation. And it doesn't mean that we're perfected souls. Oh, this is for the great souls. No, you learn by trying. You do. Fake it till you make it. We may have so many problems, but if it's auspicious, it should be accepted. So we must detach ourselves because other people, that's why you see in the scripture, in the Vedas, if someone wants self-realization, what do? Every time they leave, they go to the jungle. That's what you do. In the old days, in the old culture, you leave and you go to the jungle. Why? It's not because there's something spiritual about the jungle. It's because there's nobody there. There's no one there to put you in Maya. People put you in Maya. That's what people do. Other people put you in the bodily concept of life. They say, oh ma, or sister, or brother, or friend, or devotee, or God brother. And then we think that's us. That's why you have to get away from the mass of people. That's why in the Bhagavatam you see that these great souls like Jad Bharat or the Avadhuta Brahmana, they leave and they don't even want to talk to people. They pretend they're stupid because they don't want to have a conversation with common people. They pretend that they're retarded. Because when you talk to someone, people put you in illusion just by talking with someone. You can't help it. Otherwise, these great souls, they would talk to people, and because their spiritual power, they would not be affected. But no, they said, I'm not even going to talk to other people because Maya is so strong. I will be put in the bodily concept of life. So we have a great challenge because we're in the Hare Krishna movement. And we have service, and we're in the temple with devotees. You go to Mangalarti, it's like you're a sardine. Like that's, you're supposed to be alone. And it's like you can't even see the deities. People are bumping you, elbowing you. It's so hard. We have such a challenge. But even within the association of devotees, we have to cultivate detachment, vairagya. Internally, we have to start looking within and taking shelter of internal cultivation of spiritual life. And that comes from hearing from Prabhupada. There's no better way to cultivate detachment than hearing from Srila Prabhupada. His books or his lectures or his letters. Because Prabhupada was supremely detached. And he always advocated detachment. And it just automatically, you get detachment when you hear from Prabhupada. It's an automatic byproduct. And then we have to also look within. And we have to talk to the Lord. We have to say to the Paramatma, we have to say, okay, I think it's time I started cultivating a little independence and stop being so dependent on other people. Please help me, give me the intelligence to do it. And then see. And then Krishna may put you through trial. So this is the scary part. This part we may not like to hear. Generally, if Krishna is preparing you to come back to him, he gives you difficulty and pain, because we do not make advancement when things are good. We make advancement when things are horrible and we're suffering and we're broke and we're sick and we're hot and we don't have proper food, don't have proper clothes, don't have proper air conditioning, don't know what's happening, don't know if we have enough money to look after ourselves when we get older and we get sick, and there's nothing. That's what Krishna puts us in, because that is the situation he wants us in. Because we're forced to trust him. Because when you protect yourself, insurance policy, bank account, family, that means that you're taking care of yourself. Krishna's not taking care of you. You've made a provision to take care of yourself because you don't trust. You don't trust the future. So you're like, okay, I have this, I have that, I've got that all in play. If I have this problem, I know I can call this person. We all do that. We all have this emergency plan. If things get really bad, well, I know I can do this, but are we willing to let go of our whole emergency plan? That we have nobody, nothing except Krishna? Or do we think that Krishna is not a nice guy? I can't trust him. Leave it up to Krishna. I don't know what he'll do to me. He may torture me. And this is very bad. This is the perversity that comes in, that we think like this because we do think like this. We really don't trust. We think, oh, leave it up to Krishna and Vrindavan with no money, this and that. Oh yeah, sure, what'll happen to me? Oh, the hell I could end up. Think of what we're thinking. It's very bad, actually. We don't trust that Krishna would take care of us. Because Krishna, he will cause drama. There's no doubt. We've experienced that. But he doesn't kill us. He gives us some pain, but then he always saves the day. He always gives us enough to need. But in those painful moments is when we make spiritual advancement, isn't it? It's not when things are going well. So when we're tortured, when things are bad, that's Krishna's love. It's Krishna's love. And we may not believe it or want to believe it, but it's no more true statement was ever made. When things are good, it's not an indication of Krishna's love. We may think, oh, I'm in Vrindavan with a nice environment. I got some money. Oh, what an unexpected surprise. Now I can go on this trip if I need to. When the hot season comes, I can leave this and that. And we think that's Krishna's mercy. That's not really Krishna's mercy. That's easy. There's a billion sinful people that have money in the bank and facility and comfort like that. That's no favor. It's when we have nothing and Krishna takes everything away. 10th canto, chapter 88, verse 8. What does Krishna say? We don't like to hear this. We don't like to discuss these things. Krishna says that if I really like someone, then I humiliate that person. I take everything from them. So they become abandoned by the people that love them. Their friends and family give them up. I mean, this is what Krishna is saying. This is for real. We don't like to talk about it. And then, you know what he says after that? He says, I submit them to misery after misery. Read it up, look it up. 10th canto, chapter 88, verse 8. Krishna says, I take everything away from them. They're humiliated. Everyone rejects them. Then I subject them to misery upon misery. So if we don't understand that that's the process, then when misery comes, we'll get mad. We'll think it's ISKCON, it's the gurus, it's the GBC, it's my ex, it's the government of India, it's the management of the Vrindavan temple, blah, 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 blah. So we have to get ready, especially those of us that are older. The time is coming, so we have to get ready. How are we gonna navigate the misery? Can you do it? Are you ready? Can you do it? How much pain can you navigate? Do you trust? Do you think Krishna will put you out on the road, Vrindavan, in the guest house with nothing? Sick, abused, no shelter? But then, if you're in that situation, could you lie down and go, this is Krishna. I don't care. I don't care. So that's the wonderful thing, is that the devotee has cultivated a relationship with Krishna where they can go to the place of pain. They can risk it. They can go to a place of danger. Because they're not, material life is like, what are you, stupid? What are you doing? Look at your age. Look at your health. You're irresponsible. You need to take care of yourself. No one's going to look after you. Don't be foolish. Look at this devotee. Look at this one. Look what happened to them. You going to do that? Yes, actually you have to. Don't worry about anyone else. We don't know other people's relationship with the Lord and what they did and what Krishna had in store for them. We can't look at anybody else's lives. Don't listen to anything else. But we know Krishna's always loved us and taken care of us. And if he wants to put us in some difficulty, then we trust. He did it. Everything that happens to us is the Lord. So we don't like to hear it. It's very scary. We'd like to think the path back to Godhead is beautiful garlands and beautiful classes and beautiful maha and beautiful ashram accommodation and beautiful respect and beautiful appreciation from our guru, and then we go back to Godhead. But that's not what Krishna says. You read the scripture and it says that the process of cultivating and getting love of Godhead, it's extremely intense. It's very difficult. And we can only navigate it if we understand that we're very small and we don't deserve anything and we're nothing. And we've been given, boop, in this big, ugly, hairy body, and thinking that we're somebody because we can manipulate material nature. We're all expert manipulators. Men are expert manipulators, and women are expert manipulators. Men manipulate through promise of what they'll do for you, you know, and then women are expert by manipulating about the enjoyment that they can provide for you. Right? A man says to a woman, "What I can do for you." And the woman says, "You're so wonderful." So the success only comes from understanding our insignificance and that we're very, very tiny. And it's very difficult. You know, who was saying it? Who was giving class? A devotee was saying that he came to ISKCON and he realized that ISKCON was a conveyor belt. Who was it? He gave Bhagavatam class about a month ago. It was a devotee from Europe. And he said, I realized ISKCON is a conveyor belt, which means if I just sit down and I stay on, I will gradually be elevated. I will get position and influence and leadership if I just stay put. You know, it's true. If you stay in ISKCON, you don't fall down, don't do anything really dumb, you can become a leader. You can take sannyas, you can become a guru without doing much. That's the catch-22. If you become realized, if you start meditating that you're nothing and become really humble, what'll happen? Devotees will start recognizing you. Oh, that devotee, he's so humble. You know, he's really advanced. So that's the challenge. It's so hard. That the path of success, it just gets worse. It gets harder and harder. You make more advancement, then you get more prestige and recognition, and things become easier, and people give you things. They offer you. I want to tell you a story. So I was giving class here maybe like 5 months ago. The devotee's not here, so I'll tell the story. I won't say a name. So there's one older Indian gentleman, and I'll just close this talk with this story. So after class, he goes, Prabhu, I really like that class. He goes, I like the way that you preach Krishna consciousness. He goes, I've never heard anyone kind of give class like you. It's so refreshing. I'm so encouraged, you know. It's really nice. I really like how you speak. And I was like, okay, thank you. You know, I appreciate that. He goes, I'd like to do something for you. I'd like to do some service for you. He goes, can I get you something? I was like, you know, I should have said no. But because I was affected, and I thought, oh, here's an opportunity, I can actually get something for my labor. I said, well, I have some shalagrams. Why don't you get me some fruit? He's like, yes, some fruit. So I met him in the temple room. We made an agreement. He brought me some papaya, you know, fruit. And I was like, great, you know. I didn't have to pay for it. I saved 50 rupees, right? That's what I was thinking, because I don't really, you know, care about anyone else except myself, really. So, and I think, great. And he goes, so tomorrow, I'll bring some more fruit? I'm like, sounds great, you know. So then he goes, okay, so 11 o'clock. Anyway, something happened. I got distracted because I'm spaced out. I wasn't really thinking, and I wasn't there. I didn't come. So he bought fruit, met me in the temple room, and I didn't show up. And I'm like, oh, great. This is great. You know, what am I going to do? So then I see him, and I go, Prabhu, I'm so sorry. And he was kind of a little tweaked, a little bit, not much, but I could see little not so happy about it. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I made up all these excuses. Half of them were not true. And so tomorrow. And part of me was thinking, you know, I don't know if I'm so comfortable with this. Now I'm totally obliged. And now he's become upset, you know? Like, how is that fair? I started thinking, you know, I thought this was about me giving service. So, okay, what if I was late? I didn't show up. Like, should I really feel bad? Like, I started in my mind thinking, like, he didn't have a right to like be mad at me. But I was like, no, I need the fruit. So just calm down. So then the next day at 11, can you guess what happened? Something else happened. A whole thing came up and I forgot again. I missed the fruit drop again. And then the next time I saw him in the temple room, he did not have a happy look on his face. And I went up to him and I said, Prabhu, Prabhu, and he goes, now I realize I cannot trust you. Completely angry with me. So this is the story. You know? It all happened, but just giving a class. And then someone came forward and I took advantage of the facility. And it just bit me in the rear end, as they say. So that's the challenge. Krishna explains in today's verse that the living entity is bewildered, thinking it is the doer, when it's really the modes of material nature acting. And we have to understand we're just going along for the ride. Krishna is doing everything, and the modes are doing everything. And if we take credit for it, then we'll suffer. And the problem is that everyone will give you the benefit. Devotees get inspired. If you inspire their Krishna consciousness, if you make a difference in a devotee's spiritual life, they want to let you know. They want to let you know that you're wonderful. This is awesome. Thank you so much. And then it just makes you think like you're responsible because they're thanking you. It's very, very hard to think, to like with sincerity, say like it's Krishna, it's not me. It's really hard. You can fake it, but to genuinely emanate that, emote that, to really like own that, to really believe that, it's very hard because I want to be recognized. I have such poor false self-esteem. I'm looking to be validated. I want to be told I'm great so I can get up in the morning. So it's so hard. I want to like drink that validation. But that's an anartha. I have to constantly, meditate on my lack of qualification and like we started the class by saying, Anu. The living entity is Anu. Tiny. Lord Chaitanya, this is the first thing he says to Rupa Goswami, is that the living entity is Anu. Tiny. And then he quotes the Gita where Krishna says of infinitesimal things, I'm the living entity. So it's a very nice meditation. We have these big bodies that are impressive and can do amazing things. The body's amazing. Speech, eloquence, erudition, intellectual, concepts, all these things. It's very impressive how the body does it, how Paramatma works with speech and conveying spiritual ideas. It's very hard not to get swept up in thinking like, wow, I'm pretty impressive, I'm somebody, it's very hard. So we ask everyone to try to make a special meditation. That we're very little, we're very small, we're very tiny, like grain of dust, like on the feet of the Lord. Ai nanja tanuja kankaram patitamam vishame bhavam buddho kripaya parapankaja stidaduli sadrisha vichintayan. That my Lord, save me from this ocean of birth and death, and just take me as a piece of dust under your feet. That's the meditation. So we've got 3 minutes, very quick question. Anyone has? Yes, Prabhu?
Not a question, but I kind of disagreement on one point.
Disagreement.
Yeah,
we don't have time for disagreement.
Okay, not disagreement. According to Bhagavad-Gita, you say that Ahankara is the greatest enemy. According to Bhagavad-Gita, lust is the greatest enemy. Kama esha proja esha rajaguna sano bhava mashalom apapa vidya everybody. It means that the love of God, when you come in touch with the mode of passion, it becomes this lust. Lust create different kind of possible according to the intensity of lust. Because ahankara actually is one of the 8 material elements. It's not our greatest enemy.
In the Uddhava Gita, Uddhava says that the greatest enemy of the living entity is the mind.
Yeah, the mind is covered by lust. Then it's the greatest enemy. Otherwise,
I'm saying is for the purpose of a point, sometimes we say this is the greatest enemy in the purpose of threading an argument connected to the shloka. You can always cite a quote saying that, well, no, actually it's this. But I ask you, please take the essence. Take the essence.
Ankara without last.
Take the essence of what I'm saying.
Also, you say nobody can say I am. Many Vaishnava, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in their song, they say Amitabha Nitya Rasa.
Look at that. 6:30.
So you have
Gargamuni
to
Prabhu. Gargamuni Prabhu's time for class. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada, Ki.